Okay, Cash Duke Bowcraft here. What I'm doing tonight is I'm making some char cloth. I've got a little metal container that I'm heating up over the stove here, and I just cut up some cotton squares out of a piece of cotton, and I put them inside the container. And I poked a little hole up on top there, and I got the fire going. So what will happen is when the smoke stops coming out of the top of that hole, we'll open up the lid there, and hopefully we'll have some char cloth. You could use that for starting fires and things like that when you're out camping. It's always handy to have some of that stuff around. But anyway, we'll turn the video back on after it gets done, and we'll show you what we got. Okay, so we're back. I turned the fire off. The smoke stopped coming out of the top of that thing. It only took about 10 minutes or so before it stopped. But one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to open up that lid until the can has cooled down all the way. Because if you open up, you're going to introduce oxygen into the can, and then the char cloth inside may go up in flames. So you want to wait till this thing gets cooled down. So as soon as it gets cooled down, I can touch it with my hands and handle it. We're going to go ahead and uncap that can and see what we have inside. Alright, so before we take the cover off of that thing, I wanted to show you guys real quick my fire kit. I usually use a ferro rod when I'm out in the woods or whatever, because it's just easier and quicker. But even though I haven't used this stuff in a long time, I still bring this with me out in the woods, because you never know, when you might need it. And it's always good to practice it every once in a while as well. Anyway, this here is just a cotton rope. I've got a piece of copper tubing, and I just burned the tip of it off so that it would be just like char cloth. This thing will catch a spark, and you'll be able to light a fire with it. So I carry a length of that with me. Here's my fire steel. Use this to strike onto some flint here. You'll strike you hit this on the flint, and it'll shave off some metal off of there and make sparks, so you can light that char cloth over there. That's what that's for. And some more flint pieces. This is a piece of a flintlock flint. And then this here, this is my homemade fire piston. I don't know if any of you guys know what that is, but you know what I'm going to do? Since I got that char cloth going, you take a piece of it and you put it in this little hole right here, and then you put it into this tube and pound it down, or push it down really fast, and the compression will ignite the char cloth. And what I'll do is I'll demonstrate that as soon as that stuff is done. Alright, so I'm going to put the camera down, get set up, and show you how that works. Okay, so I took the cover off, and you could see those pieces of cotton turned really black. And this black material here is what they call char cloth. And if you put a spark or any kind of flame to this thing, it will hold a spark, and you can use it to start a campfire. Some of them didn't come out as well as they could have. You can see it's not completely black yet, but these other black ones will work just fine. So again, I'm going to set up the camera here, and then we're going to do that fire piston. It's been a while since I used it, and we'll show you how it works with this char cloth. All right, so we're going to test out this fire piston here, and basically what you do, you take a piece of char cloth, break off a little piece of it. I've got a little hole drilled into the top of this bolt, and what I'm just going to do is just try to stuff this into that little hole, just so that it holds it in place. so that it won't fall off. I don't use this thing very often because your hands get all dirty, and sometimes if you don't do it right, it won't work. But this one does work. And then I have a little bit of lubricant here, and there's a little rubber O-ring on the tip of this bolt, and I just put a little bit of lubrication on there so that it'll slide down that piston or slide down that tube a lot smoother. And all this is just a brass tube with a cap on the end of it. I put some JB weld here to seal it up, but you want this thing to be airtight. And you just put this thing in here, flip it over, and you can see there, got smoke. And then what you can do is get another piece of char cloth, transfer the flame over, and then I just got some jute twine here. You just put it inside here. Now you got fire. Anyway, got some fire over here. But anyway, so that's how it works. It took me about 5 times to get this going, but it works eventually. And you can see here I just started a fire with it, and it's always useful to have a secondary or a third means of starting a fire if all else fails. Anyway, so there you go. There's my making the char cloth and showing how my fire piston worked. Cash Stick Bowcraft, thanks for watching. Well, I forgot to show you guys how the fire steel and the piece of flint here. What you do, you just take your char cloth, put it on top of the flint, take your fire steel, catch a spark. You can see that the char cloth catches a spark very well. And then you can put that into your fire bundle and blow it to a flame.